Superman, issue 16, legacy number 859, Joshua Williamson writing with Jamal Campbell on the R. So this is a tie-in to Absolute Power. It does seem like the next couple issues are going to be tie-in issues as well.
Felt like Absolute Power 1.5.
It did.
For the first big section of it.
The funny thing is, though, is that for this book, that's an improvement. So
yeah, true.
I was kind of into it, to be honest, because this felt like a classic tie-in issue to me, where and I don't want all the main books to tie into the events when they're on, because that's a pain for lots of reasons. But I don't mind a couple of them doing it when it does feel like it's fleshing out the world a little bit, and I feel like this one fleshed out the world.
I would hate it less if. Not that I explicitly hate this issue for the, that was Paul word, but I hate those situations less if they just give this a separate mini. It's an Absolute Power Superman, and it can be a 3-issue mini that sits alongside it.
I mean, if you don't want to do that, though, I do like the fact that, Superman gets shot and we see him fall and whatever. And I do like in his own book, we get to pick up the pieces there, right? So I'm sure it'll be fine by the time Absolute Power 2 comes out. Like, you'll be able to pick better. Mark Waid's a good enough writer to fill in those gaps. But I do like here that in Superman, we follow what's going on with him.
Yeah. I also think that unlike whatever the Task Force 7 issue 1 was last week, this actually feels like it's not necessary. I'm sure the main event will still read fine without this. But this did feel like at least like there's planning going on between the writers where they've actually thought about like how this can add to the main story and how it's actually putting some things in. And it feels like at the very least some writers have sat together. They've talked about what they're doing with the event and what the other characters can be doing, and some key plot details that are set up in this that will ricochet back into the main book. And probably why it was so important to have these be on time with the main book, because I assume that the next issue will probably be set after issue 2 of Absolute Power, I would assume. So
what do you guys think of that Task Force 7? Are you going to keep going?
Well, what's so funny is that I didn't really like it, but then we checked the creative teams for the rest of the issues, and most of them have more promising teams on them.
Okay.
I think there's the first 2 had really mediocre teams on it, and then there was like 3 or 4 that had quite good-looking teams.
Yeah, it didn't really work for me either. So it was one of the ones I did read, and I was just like, I like all these characters. I do not like this premise right now.
It was just fluff. It was just a fluffy tie-in issue that didn't really add much. So this one actually starts like a kind of with a cold open where you're like, oh, what's going on here? This is like young Clark doing a magic show for his parents. What's this? But then, everything turns red. He sees blood on his shirt. He's got red on him. And that, it's, oh, no, he has been shot. We're setting this after Absolute Power issue 1. This is like sort of in his head as he's been worked on by Dr. Midnight and Mr. Terrific. And, it's like other characters trying to figure out what the hell do we do to try and save Superman.
I did not like this dialogue for Dr. Midnight here. Because he's like a legit professional medical doctor. He operates on people. I know. Yeah, sure. Oh, this is Superman. It's different. But the fact that he's like, "How are you so calm?" to Mr. Terrific, who's not traditionally a medical doctor. Like that's not his specialty.
He's the world's third smartest man.
Yeah,
he's a doctor.
I hated this. Like that is completely the wrong way around for me.
That's fair. It's been a while since I've read Dr. Midnight, so it didn't stick out to me. But I can't really argue with the logic of that. So, anywho, so the art here is obviously great. Jamal Campbell.
Whoa, no, disagree. This is the worst Campbell I've ever seen in my life. It's horrific.
Of course, Connor's on the show. Here we go.
Sometimes I miss Connor because I like Connor. He's a friend of mine, but then we start talking comics and I don't miss him at all.
I'm sorry, but every single character looks like they're pasted in onto a pre-rendered background. Every single one.
I like that Amanda Waller. It really sets the mood when you turn the page and she's bathed in purple. Because she's got all the screens behind her. I think that looks really cool.
I like that panel.
Look down that page, the third panel. Yeah. He just looks like he's not in that panel. Whoever that is talking in the purple light, he's not in that panel. He is just cut and pasted onto it.
I like that panel because he's not in the light. It's showing you that he's out.
Yeah, but it's every panel. They all go down a panel. Every single character just looks like they're not in the scene. They just look like they're pasted on top of it.
I don't know. I can't follow you on this one.
It looks terrible.
There are some for depth, right? Where like where
it's every single time.
We get the Zatanna reveal, and she pokes through the top. But I think that's for effect, right?
That panel, right, of Zatanna turning around with the lights on her, right, against the wall. That's a great panel.
Okay, but go to the page before. Like seriously, go to the page before that one and look at the middle strip on the left. Zatanna there with that black outline. She just looks. She's pasted on. Like there's no depth. There's no blending of the scene. It just looks like characters on a background. It looks like they're in front of a matte painting. Like that's what it looks like an old TV show or movie where you have people in front of a matte background. That's what this looks like to me. It looks awful.
I don't think that looks bad.
See that, bud.
Yeah, I don't think that looks bad at all.
I don't see that.
I thought this looked terrible.
No, that didn't. No,
Look,
I have some of the issues with the composition that they get a little bit busy, but but other than that, I'm not getting the flat background thing.
Here's what gets me on this, right? Is that it's not just that he comes in and he's got a bit of a nitpick. He comes in with, "This is awful. This is the worst I've ever seen."
from specifically from Campbell, I expect higher. And
I mean, honestly, I understand that. I understand thinking that of expecting higher. However,
it made this issue borderline unreadable for me because I could not get through a page without it being the.
Did you read this after you had your eyes dilated? Maybe that's the problem?
No. I read all my comics before that this week because I was prepared.
Well, shoot.
Okay. Bloody hell.
Maybe that's. But anyways.
Anyway, right. Okay. So what's actually happening here is that obviously the Amazos and people who are working for Waller are hunting down more superheroes, metahumans, magic users, whoever.
Yeah. They say anybody that has a skill set that will prevent Waller from winning, they're going after.
Yes, even if you're a vigilante with no powers, you still count because you're one of them. And the corner Zatanna in this alleyway, she's trying to use magic to open up like a magic hidden door, but it's not working because all our magic's been taken. And that's where we get this reveal. And there's a quick little flashback that basically shows that when they were teenagers, Bruce said, "Hey, you can't use magic for everything." She's like, "What, you going to show me how to throw a punch?" Cut back to the present day scene, and she beats the shit out of two of the soldiers.
So real quick, when she goes to open the door, right? Because I'm not thinking this is Zatanna right off the bat. I'm like, oh, who's this mystery woman? And it says Nepo, and I was like, wow, who is she calling a Nepo baby in this panel? Right? I hate that modern culture has done this to me. Because normally I should think like, oh, Zatanna's a guest star in this. I should read that as open. But no, my stupid self read this as Nepo and got very confused. Like, Robin is nowhere in here. But anyways.
Such a mad
thing. And when we're going to talk about the art, I can definitely see that it's not perfect. I would say it's not Campbell's like top of the line stuff, because when we get to some of these other pages with the backgrounds, and there's a lot of rush lines and color play and that type of stuff, like it's a little bit too busy for me.
Sure.
But other than that, I think it's still pretty solid Jamal Campbell, especially the colors when we get like to the fortress and it cools down. I think his style, to me at least, always has lent itself to the cooler colors. So when it gets blown out with oranges and yellows and stuff like that, I don't know, it loses something.
Yeah, Mercy kind of sort of rappels in and grabs Zatanna and says she's got somewhere safe to go, and she's like, "Where the hell's safe now?" Smash cut to the Fortress of Solitude, with whatever heroes who have not been taken or still aren't scattered are there. So we see Dick and Cass are in the background, Starfire's there, a few others.
Looks like Atom Smasher.
Dinah's, I think, standing there.
Yara, I think.
And Blue Beetle is being a little shit and picking a fight with Red Tornado because robots are behind us, and Red Tornado takes offense and they start having a shouting match. But Superman comes out and breaks up the fight. He's woken up, he's been patched up, he's in his black and silver recuperation suit, if you will.
For reasons.
Here's my thing, and again, I understand why you go with the visual. However, we have the whole part with Mr. Terrific and Dr. Midnight being like, yeah, he's still the Man of Steel. We don't know how this lasts. He could get his powers back. So that's why they're using the kryptonite scalpel on him. There's nothing that says that this Kryptonian recovery suit's going to work any better.
I don't think that's the reason for it. I think there's okay, I'm sure you can tell me that's the in-story reason. But I think there's a legitimately real reason that Williamson has chosen this. And it's because a few pages later, Zatanna starts saying, "Hey, you've died. You're close to death. And I think this is a visual reminder of that story. So everyone's like, just to get you like in the mindset.
Okay.
Of, oh yeah, Superman has died.
That's fine. As long as it wasn't just a member berries thing, which is how I originally took it.
There's a thematic link here, because Zatanna starts talking about these hidden magical passageways that people sometimes stumble into, but you don't actually have to have magic to access them. And people who are more attuned to it are people who have either had near-death experiences or actually died, and Superman's kind of done both. So they set up, they've got this plan to like get around the world using these hidden passageways to try and find people and whatever. And there's a whole little moment where Superman says he's proud of Mercy or whatever for doing stuff, and gives her a mission to find someone. Importantly, meanwhile at the Supercorp building, Jimmy, Silver Banshee, and
Lena
and Lex, who has no memory of who he is, are snipping
Lex with the red beard coming into very distinct look.
This shows just how forgettable I found Williamson's story is. That it took me a second to go, wait, what? And I went, oh yeah, that's right. He said, who's Lex Luthor at the end of that last arc? It took me a second.
Do you want to know my favorite part of this is I haven't read the last issue of Superman yet. I went, it's fine. I'm sure I'll manage.
Yeah, you're fine.
I was like, okay, I'll just roll with it.
You just have to know that Waller has the Brainiac Queen, and
I didn't know. I knew nothing from that issue going into this, and I feel like I missed nothing. Like,
well, that's all. It launched at the end, and it did the whole Superman thing, right? And then Waller gets it. So
I will say, Lex has grown a beard pretty quickly, because he did not have that beard in that last issue of Superman.
So I'm wondering how much time is in between these stories, or if he
short beard at least.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is short. It kind of threw me. I don't remember Lex with the beard when he doesn't have the long, flowy red hair, like in the Death of Superman, right? So it was definitely a choice. But I also love the idea of Lex just following them around because he doesn't know who he is. He's like, yeah, all right, lady that says you're my daughter, I'll come with you.
Yeah, but it was the sort of thing where I was trying to figure out who the last character was, and because the beard, I didn't just immediately think Lex. And then obviously someone referred to him or as whatever, and I'm like, oh, amnesia. Oh dear. And then Peacemaker and his team show up, and they're like, you're idiots for coming back here, because this is such a dumb place to be. And I was like, yeah, you're right. This was a dumb place to come back to.
I hate this type of dialogue where they just like, instead of writing around the plot contrivance, they just have a character point out and go, hey, isn't this stupid? And we're supposed to just go, okay, then at least they're aware of it. I'm like, no, you're aware of it. Write better.
Yeah. They're there though because they're looking for some Lex armor or something to help them fight. And the twist at the end, or the reveal at the end, is that Lois comes out wearing this white and red Superman style armor, like an Iron Man suit, basically.
Yeah, it looks like Lex's suit, instead of the suit that he wore when he was Superman at the end of, was that New 52? Into Rebirth?
Kinda. I mean, it's a very different color scheme.
His was blue. Yeah, his was blue and red. This is of that same style. But I do like hear what Peace Record tells Jimmy, right? And we all know that Jimmy is a hero. Right?
I'm so glad Matt remembered what Lady Peacemaker was called.
I was going to call her Lady Peacemaker.
It's only because wrecking is the opposite of making, and that's why those two work. Right? So he makes peace, she wrecks peace. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes this work.
Yay. And we all have our mnemonic devices. Mnemonic.
I mean,
mnemonic.
If she said what's the opposite of making to me, I'd probably say like disassembling or breaking. Yeah.
Right. And what is disassembling? Then not.
Why wouldn't you say peace breaker? And
you
could take that up with,
that sounds better, actually. Peacebreaker sounds better.
Take that up with Josh Williamson. I don't know.
I'd love to.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I like what here, the whole dynamic with Jimmy. Right, and I feel like that's some of the stuff that we're gonna get in Absolute Power, where she's like, you're feeling brave because he tries to save Silver Banshee from them, and she's like, even in a world without powers, you're still a loser, but at least you'll be a martyr, right? But it just shows that, like, yeah, even if these people don't have powers, someone like Jimmy that is so ingratiated to the heroes isn't gonna let this stuff slide. Right, it doesn't matter if he has powers or not. It's right or wrong. So I do like that the average, kind of person is taking that swing here. So I appreciate Williamson for throwing that in.
Yeah, overall, I did kind of like this issue. It's not an amazing issue by any means, but I liked it because it felt like it just kind of it gave me a nice vibe of what the feeling on the street is right now. Like Zatanna like sneaking around alleyways, the team coming after her, Mercy coming out to save her, establishes where some of the heroes are right now, what some of the plan is going forward. Just getting a vibe of like the status quo everywhere, because obviously the event's all the big bombastic stuff and it has to move through all the plot beats. This is a chance to slow down and just sort of take, okay, what does it actually feel like right now in the DCU?
Yeah, because that scene where they're sneaking into Supercourt and you have the Last Sun android flying around and they're ducking and hiding from it and stuff too. That was like a nice tone setter.
Yeah. So not essential, but I would say this is a pretty decent tie-in issue into an event, as opposed to that Task Force 7 issue last week, which was just
rough times.
Yeah. So, you know, and I do think the Jamal Campbell art's pretty good, despite Connor's reservations.
I like his Zatanna.
I am amazed that this is a hot. I thought that we would. I honestly read this and thought we'd be in agreement. Like,
of course you did.
You've been gone for a while.
I know, but like, I genuinely, I read this and I was like, I had to double check it was Jamal Campbell because I didn't believe it. I was genuinely shocked at how bad I thought it was, and I thought for sure everyone was going to see this. And yeah, I'm baffled.
You know, like I don't think it's his best work. So when you said it's not my favorite Jamal Campbell, I was like, yes, but then you're like, worst of all time. No. But yeah, no, that's still pretty. It's still pretty decent.
All right, Matt, what are you rating Superman?
I'm gonna give it a 7.
Connor,
I'm bringing my trademark high scoring here. Solid 5.
I actually also think 7. I think 7 is exactly where I was feeling as well. Not a must read by any means, but I think it's a nice companion to the event that's going on.